Hi. I started using Hyperdocs about a year ago when I had a bunch of sources amassed that I wanted to be able to show to students, or I wanted them to be able to choose between them because I figured, well, hey, I've gathered all this great information as I've been learning all about modern US history, so I might as well go ahead and share it with kids and then let them decide what they would like to learn more about. So that's how I got my start with it. And since then, I've used it in a bunch of different ways. I wanted to show you the basics of how to go about creating a hyperdoc. So here what you see in front of you is you see the hyperdoc that I'm working on currently for our session. And so how I got this going is, first off, I just took one of my existing templates. So like, let's say if I wanted to use this one. So here's one that I made that focuses on civil rights, and kids had different options as to what they wanted to do. So there's some things that they can watch, and then there are other things that they can read. So there's different articles that are involved there. You also might notice that there's point values assigned to that. So sometimes I'll put a point value on it and say, okay, you need to do up to 25 points or something like that. So in this case, our focus is civil rights, and then they have their information on their task here in the center. They're supposed to use the fill tool where they go ahead and, like, let's say if they're going to read this one, they would put their cursor in there. They would go up, they would select this fill tool, and then they would just use whatever color they want to then fill in the box. So anyway, then their next step is after they have read it or watched it or viewed it or whatever, then they go ahead and for this assignment, I had them do a 3-2-1 per source. So that's just a critical thinking routine where they do 3 comments, 2 questions, and 1 simile or metaphor. If you want to see an example of a student's work on this, I have one that I posted into our Hyperdoc that I'm making for our training. And then I put my point value instructions down in here. So in the past, I found that kids really like to use these, and in fact, they really looked forward to it because they had so much choice involved, but they're all learning about an essential topic for our class. So going back to this though, what I would do is if I want to make one, I would take this existing HyperDoc and then I would go and I would just make a copy. And I would rename it to whatever I want to call it. So my new HyperDoc in this case. And go ahead and put it where I need it to be in Drive. So I'll put it here in Dunson Middle School. Okay. Then I'll just say that I'm going to put it in there. Boom. So with this copy that I've now made, now I can go ahead and edit this entire thing and change it up however I want and just put my new stuff into it. So typically what I tend to do is I start off with a rough draft, which is just a series of links. So it's from all the research that I've done. Oh boy, here's all this exciting stuff that I found that relate to my topic. And then I go ahead and I find images that seem to match up with these different things. And I insert the image and I hyperlink it. And then it's ready to roll pretty much. So in my new HyperDoc here, like let's say if I wanted to change this up, so I'm making a new topic, so I'm going to go ahead and change this out to new topic, whatever it is. And then I might change the task instructions depending on what I want students to do with it. And let's say if I have something for them to take a look at that's different from this, I could take the picture out. I can go up to insert image. I can either upload one I've already got, or I can go into my drive and search my pictures there, or I can just search the web. And sometimes that works out really nicely. So just another example. I'll take that picture. And let's go ahead and press insert. Done. Then I can resize it if I want to make it so that the HyperDoc's just one page. You can make HyperDocs that are longer than a page too if you want, but I don't like to. Then you go ahead and just select that picture, go up to link, and then I'm going to go out and get my source, whatever it is. So like, let's say if I'm going to link this source in, if that's what fits with that picture, I'll go ahead and paste it there and apply. And then I can just change the instructions here too. I can take those out and say examine this example to discover a way to create a Hyperdoc. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and you link your sources in. Now, another thing you might be wondering is, once this is made, how do I get it to talk to Google Classroom? So what I would do is I would go into my class and I would go ahead and create a new assignment. And depending on if students are going to leave comments or if they're just going to view it and then be writing their answers down on paper or using it for a discussion or whatever, I'm going to make my decision as to whether or how I'm going to use it and how I'm going to assign it out to the class. So I've got my new Hyperdoc. I'm going to make it for all students. Let's change that to 4 and then add my due date if I'm going to have one. And then when I get down here, I'm going to go ahead and just select it. So there's my new one that I'm working on. And then over here, let's say if I want students to do the 3-2-1 option where they're commenting directly on it, I'm going to go ahead and make a copy for each student. So that way they get their own individual one to interact with, and then they can leave comments. And then I would press assign and assign it out so each kid would be able to interact with it. So something else that's kind of important to be aware of is when you are making your Hyperdoc, just be really thoughtful as to how much do you want kids to have to do, how long do you want them to interact with it. Some of them I've had them use over several days. Sometimes it's just like a quick half-hour kind of activity. It just kind of depends on what we're using it for. But I hope that helps you get started, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop by. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.